She got more cool than any 10 actors I've ever seen.
Yes, speaking of cool.
Good evening, Clint. Huh? Is this great?
That's great, Don.
Thanks for all the calls. You've done so much for my career. It's gone right in the toilet since the last time I saw it.
You know, standing here beside you, you're 6'4", is this correct? Everybody's told me you are the #1 box office star in the world.
Something wild happened during this interview because Clint Eastwood wasn't sitting there like some distant Hollywood legend. He was relaxed, open, and ready to talk in a way people don't usually expect from him. The room wasn't glamorous, no dramatic spotlights or movie set props, just Clint settling in like he was about to share stories he'd kept tucked away for decades. And the moment he started speaking, everyone could feel that old-school charm hitting just as strong as ever. So the interviewer decides to push a little and asks him something bold. Real bold. You've played the outlaw, the cowboy, the cop, but off camera, which actresses ever really got to you? And Clint doesn't rush an answer. He lets that silence hang heavy, like he's sizing up the question the same way he used to size up villains in old westerns. Then he laughs, this dry, rough laugh, and says, "At this age, what do I got to lose? I've worked with a lot of incredible women. Some of them almost knocked my focus clean out. Others, well, I just didn't get the chance, but the thought definitely crossed my mind." And he leans forward like he's about to drop a secret. Clint says there were 7 women who could have made him forget every line he ever learned. He explains it in the most Clint way possible. Being a movie tough guy was nothing compared to standing a few feet away from certain actresses. You can fake a stunt, fake a punch, fake the danger, but you cannot fake the way your pulse jumps when someone that stunning looks right at you. That's not acting. That's survival. He takes a slow sip, lets the quiet stretch even longer, then smirks like he knows exactly what he's doing. "I played the tough guy on screen," he says, "but off screen? Sometimes the hardest thing I ever did was behave myself, and I'll be honest, I didn't always succeed." Meryl Streep.
I'm naturally in a bad mood. Did they say that? No, I don't really like to exercise very much.
I'm Meryl Streep, and I hope you're not watching me in high definition. If you are, I'm going to kill myself.
When he brings up Meryl, his whole voice shifts. There's this rare softness in it, like he's replaying something only he can see. He shakes his head and says, "Meryl Streep, that woman was dynamite, pure elegance mixed with danger." When they filmed the Bridges of Madison County, everyone talked about the chemistry like it was its own character. But Clint says the camera only caught part of it. The real heat was in the little moments between takes, the glances, the tiny looks that no script ever wrote. He laughs again, low and rough, and says, "I'd be trying to play the calm photographer, and she'd just look at me. Just a flicker of those eyes, soft but sharp at the same time, and I'd lose my place completely." Clint admits something most people would never expect from him. He says he barely ever forgets lines, but with Meryl Streep, it happened more than once. She had this way of tilting her head and giving a little smile, like she could see right through whatever you were trying to hide, and that kind of energy can rattle even the toughest man. For a second, he looks like his mind is right back in that quiet Iowa kitchen from the film. He talks about one moment where he lifted her chin during a scene and people still ask him whether that was acting. And Clint doesn't even try to sugarcoat it. It wasn't, he basically says. That was him fighting the urge to kiss her for real with a whole crew standing around watching. And he admits straight up, if they hadn't been surrounded by cameras, that day's filming might have ended very differently. Clint leans in like he's revealing something he probably shouldn't. He says Meryl had this warm, faint, natural scent, not perfume, just her, and standing close enough to catch it felt dangerous. He jokes that if he had breathed too deep, he might have ended up writing his own goodbye letter. That's how strong the moment was. Then he settles back, and you can hear the respect in his voice. Meryl wasn't just a co-star to him, she was a whole storm. Gentle one second, powerful the next. She could make a man feel like he was the only one in the room, then remind him he was completely outmatched with just a glance. She didn't just play Francesca, she became her. And Clint admits that for those months, she practically lived in his mind, too. He gives this sly little smirk, that old cowboy spark showing through. He says Meryl made self-control feel like the hardest stunt of his entire career, And this is a man who's jumped from trains, been dragged by horses, and had movie bullets fired past his head. But keeping his hands to himself around her? That was the real challenge. Then the mood shifts when her name comes up, Sondra Locke. Clint leans back, and his expression tightens into something between a grin and a memory that still stings. Now that's a name that kicks up dust, he says. They work together on 6 films. 6. In Hollywood, that doesn't happen unless something strong is burning both on-screen and off. And Clint makes it clear. Whatever was between them, it wasn't small. He calls it fire, wild, intense, almost impossible to control. He pauses, the lines near his eyes tightening like he's walking through old smoke. On screen, Sondra was sharp, fearless, and bold enough to stare him down without flinching. And he points out that most actors can play tough or vulnerable, but Sondra, she could flip between the two in an instant like it was nothing. Clint explains that with Sondra Locke, everything felt like it was shifting from one moment to the next. 1 second, she could be soft and close, and the next, she'd hit him with a look sharp enough to stop him in his tracks. And he says that's where it got risky, because after a while, a man forgets which part is the performance and which part is real. He lets out a low laugh, not happy, not sad, just honest. Working with her, he says, wasn't acting. It was sparring. Half the time they were in character, half the time they weren't, and even he couldn't always tell the difference. Their chemistry was heavy, the kind that makes directors freeze instead of yelling cut, because they know they're watching something rare. But Clint's tone shifts, rougher now, as he admits that fire comes with consequences. People saw the spark on screen, the passion, the intensity. What they didn't see was the smoke, the arguments, the tension, the days where they clashed so hard the crew didn't know whether to step in or step back. He talks about days when he and Sondra would argue like they were trying to shake the building, then walk straight into a scene and make it look like they were the only 2 people alive. That was the power she had. She could frustrate him to the edge one moment and make him forget everything the next. Clint shakes his head like he's still carrying the weight of it. He says he tried to keep things under control, tried to stay professional. But with Sondra, those boundaries never held for long. She was temptation and trouble wrapped together, and every time he told himself to stay focused, she'd step on set with her hair catching the light, eyes locked on his, and whatever line he drew in his mind snapped instantly. He lets a small grin creep in, that familiar cowboy spark in his eyes. He says no one works with Sondra Locke, and walks away untouched. She wasn't just a co-star, she was a whole force of nature. And he admits he walked right into it knowing it would break him down, and if he had the chance to go back, he'd still walk into it again. 3. Shirley MacLaine.
One thing that I was surprised to know is that you turned down Breakfast at Tiffany's?
Clint cracks a grin, shaking his head like he's pressing play on an old memory. Shirley MacLaine, he says. Now that's a firecracker. They worked together on 2 Mules for Sister Sarah. And according to him, she was unlike anyone he had ever met. Smart, sharp, and full of energy packed into a small frame, more than most people could handle. He leans forward a bit as he explains. On screen, she played a nun with a twist, and off screen, she had the exact same mix. Serious one moment, cracking up the whole crew the next. Clint says when she laughed, it wasn't quiet or polite. It was bold, full of life, the kind of laugh that hits you right in the chest and dares you not to feel something. His eyes narrow with a playful glint as he remembers her. Working with Shirley, he says, came with a totally different kind of danger. Yes, she was beautiful, he doesn't hide that, but it was the unpredictability that made her unforgettable. You never knew if she was gonna lean in close, call you out, or tell you some story about a past life she insisted she lived in ancient Egypt. And the wild part? He says all 3 sounded good to him. He lets out a low chuckle, enjoying the memory. Shirley kept him on his toes every single day. And to a man like Clint, that was magnetic. A woman who didn't just play the game, she rewrote the rules while he was still trying to catch up. Clint jumps into the next story with a look that says this one still hits a little different. When he talks about Jessica Walter, his grin fades into something tighter, almost serious.
I just like what I do. I like acting. I never could have stuck it out this long if I didn't really love it. I couldn't have put up with the BS. I really couldn't.
He calls her a powerful presence, beautiful, intense, and the kind of woman who could walk onto a set and shift the whole atmosphere in seconds. Play Misty for Me was his first time directing, and Clint says Jessica came in like a lightning strike, keeping everyone alert without even trying. He pauses for a moment like he's playing back a scene only he can see. He says Jessica played Obsession better than anyone he'd ever worked with. And it wasn't all acting. She had this look, sharp, focused, like she could see every thought you didn't say out loud. Off-screen, she carried that same spark. Quick-witted, sharp-tongued, the type who could hit you with a line that cut deep and somehow have you laughing with her seconds later. Clint admits the mix was confusing, but in the most unforgettable way. He lets out a slow breath as his voice drops. There were moments, he says, when he genuinely didn't know where Jessica ended and her character, Evelyn, began. She'd give him this smile, sweet but edged with danger, and he'd think if she leans in any closer, I'm not making it out of this moment steady. Jessica was beauty wrapped in chaos, magnetic and unpredictable, and to Clint, that combination was almost impossible to step away from. Then Clint shifts into a softer tone as he moves on to Donna Mills.
One of the things I'd like to ask you about, just because I'm curious, you never married. How come? Is there a particular reason?
He says she was a completely different kind of temptation. Blonde, calm, glowing with that classic California presence. In Play Misty for Me, she didn't have to raise her voice or take over a scene. Just walking into the frame made everyone pay attention, Clint included. He gives a small smirk as he describes her. Donna carried a quiet kind of innocence, but underneath it, you could sense strength, real strength. She wasn't chasing attention, it naturally followed her. Clint says looking at her felt like seeing the kind of beauty that could knock a man off balance without even meaning to, and he admits she almost did. He remembers a long day on set, everyone worn out, and Donna walked by humming a soft tune. Nothing dramatic, just light, something gentle. And suddenly, half the crew stopped what they were doing just to listen. That was the effect she had. Quiet but magnetic, with a presence that pulled you in without warning. And Clint laughs as he adds that Donna had this sweet girl-next-door charm, but people shouldn't mistake it. There was something powerful underneath. She didn't need tricks or games. Her presence alone was enough to leave a mark on anyone paying attention, especially him. Clint says Donna Mills carried her charm like a quiet advantage, and she knew exactly what it did to people. She'd give you a simple, easy smile, nothing flashy, and suddenly you'd be questioning whether you should step a little closer or keep your distance before you lost your footing completely. Clint's grin widens as he admits that he always tried to behave, always tried to keep things professional. But Donna made that feel like the hardest job on set, and he jokes that if she had leaned in even slightly more, they might have ended up filming a very different ending for that movie. 6. Sophia Loren.
I'm sorry to bother you. I know you're on duty, but
Then Clint leans back, and for a moment, that famous squint of his softens into something close to admiration. When he says Sophia Loren's name, it's almost like the whole tone shifts. He calls her a force of nature, not just an actress, but someone who carried presence with every step. Clint says he never worked opposite her, and maybe that was a blessing because he's not convinced he could have kept his focus around her. He laughs low, like he's confessing something from long ago. He says Sophia had that unmistakable Italian fire, that regal beauty that didn't fade when the lights turned off. And it wasn't just her looks, though Clint makes it clear those could make a man stop in his tracks. It was the way she carried herself, confident and calm, like she knew exactly how people reacted to her. And she enjoyed it. Clint remembers seeing her at a few big Hollywood events, packed rooms, full of stars, everyone dressed to impress. But he says the moment Sophia walked in, the entire space shifted. All the noise faded. Even if you were surrounded by a crowd, your eyes went straight to her. That's how strong her presence was. She had a laugh, he says, smooth, rich, and just dangerous enough to make you feel like she had let you in on a secret meant for no one else. And the wild part? You instantly wanted to hear it again. Clint breathes out slowly, his voice dropping. To him, Sophia Loren was temptation wrapped in elegance. She didn't have to flirt, didn't have to say much at all. A glance was enough to make a man wonder which lines he'd risk crossing. And Clint admits it plainly. If she ever motioned for him to follow her, hat or no hat, he would have walked right behind her without thinking twice. Then he lets out that sly grin again. Some women, he says, you admire safely from a distance because getting close might be too much. But with Sophia, distance wasn't just smart, it was survival. Because he knew if he stepped too close, he might never come back from it. And then there's the seventh name Clint brings up, Raquel Welch.
Have you ever held a snake in your hand?
No, I haven't. Not a snake.
What have you held?
I had a person with me.
What happened? What happened?
Whenever I get around you, everything has a, double entendre thing. Terrible things come to mind.
The moment he says it, he gives this slow shake of the head, that low, gravelly laugh, slipping out like he's remembering a moment he probably shouldn't repeat. Raquel Welch wasn't just beautiful, he says. She was heat, confidence, and presence all wrapped together in a way that made the whole room shift when she stepped in. Clint admits they never worked on a film together, but he saw her enough around Hollywood parties and premieres to know exactly what she could do to a crowd. She didn't walk into a room, she took it. People straightened their jackets, fixed their hair, tried to pretend they weren't staring, but everyone knew they were no longer the main character the second she arrived. He leans in a little, voice dropping the way it does when someone's telling a truth they've kept quiet for a long time. Raquel had this way of making you forget your own conversation mid-sentence. One glance from her and your brain would short-circuit. Suddenly you'd be thinking about how fast you could slip into a quiet corner before you embarrassed yourself. Clint laughs again, soft and almost guilty, like he knows he's saying too much. He remembers the look she carried, the half smirk that felt like an invitation and a warning at the same time. And Clint says straight out, a man like him would have taken it as both. She didn't need to say a word for you to feel that spark. Just standing near her was enough to make your self-control start slipping. He leans back, letting the memory sit there with a slow grin forming under his mustache. He says some temptations were never meant to be chased. They were meant to stay fantasies. And Raquel Welch? She's one he'll always keep in that category. Clint ends it by saying that over all the years, all the films, all the co-stars, and all the moments, there were 7 women who truly knocked him off balance, each in their own way. Some he worked with, some he didn't, but every single one of them left a mark deep enough for him to remember decades later. And now that he's finally said their names out loud, you can tell he meant every word. So let me know what you think. Did Clint keep it too real or not real enough? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and make sure you like, share, and subscribe if you want more wild celebrity stories just like this. Thanks for watching, and see you on the next one. And don't forget, there's another video popping up on your screen right now with even more celebrity drama waiting for you.